Hi, and welcome back to Thone's Hebrew Nibbles number 56. Limitations of the Earthly Service, Part 2 of 2. The Access to God After Jesus. We've already read Hebrews chapter 9, verses 6 through 10, and feel free to pause and read that again if you wish. What was the belief of the Old Testament forgiveness? Why is this in the Bible? Distinguishing between New and Old Testament forgiveness. Communications is differences in forgiveness. That was kind of a lame thing to say, wasn't it? Application to me. The blood sacrifices and the blood specifically applied to the ark and the Day of Atonement did nothing to change the spirit and the heart of the worshiper. Okay, that's important to understand. This is because they applied to cleansing the spiritual purity of the person. This led, the ceremonial purity of the person, and this led to the forgiveness of specific carnal sins that have been committed. Thus, these were outward sins. The forgiveness given by Jesus under the new covenant was for moral sins. That is the inner person. And this is the forgiveness which leads to changes of heart, allowing removal of the desires of sin. So, in a nutshell, here we have that when you gave a sacrifice by the Levitical priesthood, you receive forgiveness for some physical sin you committed. And, that could be virtually anything that you think of. That could be adultery, that could be robbery. All those kinds of things. Those are outside things which you did. There's no doubt that you did them, but they have nothing to do with what God is really interested in. He just is forgiving them because that's the best that you can get at that time. And therefore we can think of those outside sins, the carnal sins, the sins of commission that you do deliberately. I had to get there in a hurry, so I deliberately drove much faster than the speed limit, and I got pulled over, and I got a ticket, and I have to pay that, and so on. That's the kind of, by the way, I didn't do that, but that's the kind of thing we're talking about, sins that were committed by you not doing the right thing, knowing that it was the wrong thing and didn't do the right thing publicly. And that's one of the carnal sins. Whereas what Jesus is talking about is if you follow Him and do what He would do in a situation, then your insides, your actual heart, your soul, your spirit, all will prevent you, hopefully, from committing that outside sin. And so it's a ticket to forever, because as you do that, then you are understanding that although it may be important what you did from a personal standpoint, it is also important to God, of course, but not committing the sin is more important than being punished for the sin. And that's what the kinds of the covenant with Jesus, the new covenant, is about you trying not to commit the sin, not that you are asking for forgiveness because you did commit the sin. And that's all very deep and very complicated, and I hope that what I said didn't confuse you more, that it explained it a little better. God tells us removing the desire to sin is better than forgiving a particular sin. The fact is that if you do something illegal today and you then say, "Oh, God, I'm sorry," He forgives you, really, that's the first step. But then the next step is to committing yourself to trying to do what Jesus would do the next time that same situation arises, and you won't commit the sin. And that's the main message here. My personal response: Lord, thank you for pointing out this critical difference, and it is a critical difference. If dropping and breaking a glass of beverage a child might do, if that's a sin, and in the most minute sense it might be, that's not good. But it's something that is easily forgivable by the parent, and you just get another glass, pour some more, whatever it was in it, and give them a drink. That's not, but the big lesson is teaching them to be careful with their drink. And in a sense, that in a very trivial way is what God is wanting us to do. That is to have a heart that wants to do right, that is committed to doing right, that sometimes does wrong because we are sinful people, but it's the immediacy of our needing forgiveness that shows that we're making progress towards maturity in our Christian belief. Well, we'll talk to you next time. That got real deep real quickly. Bye-bye.